Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by my elephant-sized co-host, Tucker Hazel, and we are here today to talk about Super Mario Bros. Wonder, principally through the prism of Jeff Keighley's The Game Awards ceremony, where we're going to talk about its chances to win Game of the Year, which has been nominated for, among some other categories. But before we do, if you want to talk to us about Mario Wonder, The Game Awards, anything at all, come join our Discord, link as usual, top of the description right down there. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell, leave a comment, and that's enough.
I gotta say, I don't
want to ask too much of you.
Now you're on there, because it's got a little singy-songiness to it. Now you're on there. I want to get the, I want to get that written out in, like, music. What's a chord progression?
Sure, make it your Animal Crossing town tune.
Kind of sounds like a Mario coin pickup noise. Like Mario Wonder, maybe.
Yeah. There's no coins in Mario Wonder.
Got those little purple ones, tiny little ones, like chips. They look like little popcorn.
True.
Abram, Mario Wonder
Tucker
has been nominated for Game of the Year, and we have been doing breakdowns on all of the Game Awards Game of the Year nominees. We have yet to do Spider-Man 2, but there are videos up if you want to go check them out for Baldur's Gate 3, Alan Wake 2, Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, and Resident Evil 4. Remember, I almost forgot what it was.
Also, if you watch this video probably 4 days out from release, the Spider-Man one will also be out.
That's a great point. Think about it that way.
But let's get into this, Tucker. Same format as always. We'll go through each category the game's nominated for. We'll go through the nominees it's up against, and we'll sort of just chat about its chances in each of these respective categories. We've determined that it's, five categories, including Game of the Year, that's up for? So a pretty hefty amount. Not as much as Tears of the Kingdom, though, which was 6?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it was 6.
Is
so
still then less than Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake 2, which both had 8.
Right. Nintendo, though, interesting factoid that probably everybody watching this already knows. Nintendo, the most nominated publisher of the year. And we're actually going to end up talking about a number of those other games today. Because we're gonna hit some. We're gonna hit family. We're gonna hit things
themselves in quite a few of these categories.
Yeah.
Although Mario Wonder not in sim/strategy, where Nintendo is dominating, I believe 3/5 of the nominees.
Yeah, odds are they're gonna win. But Tucker, I would say the odds for Game of the Year where Nintendo is also up against itself are not too good.
Yeah.
But Mario Wonder is up against the following, and you basically listed them out already. But for clarity's sake, for Game of the Year, it's Mario Wonder.
Which, at that point, what the fuck's
RE4, Spider-Man, Tears of the Kingdom, Baldur's Gate, and Alan Wake. Tucker, I would say that Mario Bros. Wonder is probably like 5th on the list.
I'd say probably
in
over
terms of likelihood.
Resident Evil. But I do think that in terms of impact and general understanding of what Game of the Year nominee and winner means, Mario Wonder definitely feels like it is external to the rest of the bunch, but I think that the combination of having Baldur's Gate 3 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder in here, those two games being in genres that aren't traditionally represented in Game of the Year nominees/winners is so exciting and makes this list, this lineup, way more interesting. And Wonder didn't come out of nowhere because it's a 2D Mario game, and those are traditionally very good, but they've never, in the era of Game Awards shows, not even just the Game Awards, but Game Awards shows, and giving out these nominees, and of course, within our lifetimes, 2D Mario has never been given a chance to be in that conversation outside of, if you want to count Super Mario Maker in 2015. But Mario Wonder...
That was up for Game of the Year?
No, but it was certainly in that conversation. Like, one of the best games of the year.
Sure.
But Super Mario Bros. Wonder, traditional 2D Mario game, 2D platformer game, nominated for Game of the Year. Not going to win, but maybe my favorite nominee here, because it's really cool that it actually did make it in.
For clarity's sake, because I thought so, I just double-checked. Mario Maker actually was up for Game of the Year in 2015. Lost out to The Witcher Wild Hunt. But the reason I wanted to pull it up, because you're totally right. It is, it's a really cool nominee, and in terms of other, even just, if we just want to extrapolate out to platformers that have ever been up for Game of the Year post Spike, you're looking at, again, 2015 with Mario Maker, and then you got maybe say Inside with 2016, but that's not in the same spirit. So I'd call you a fool. Obviously, Mario Odyssey in 2017 had a solid chance. Celeste in 2018 was a really cool nominee. By the same token, if you are a pervert, you consider Death Stranding as a platformer.
Jesus Christ, you have to be a really big pervert for that one.
Yeah. Then 2021, I think, is interesting because if you want to talk about a year that really had a lot of really diverse nominees genre-wise, I think that's a great shout. And also, if we take platformer to be the most general it could possibly be, and you throw Dread, It Takes Two, and Ratchet and Clank in there,
too.
And Psychonauts.
Which is maybe the most traditional platformer out of all those, actually. So
yeah, it's platformer core year, right? But I think it's interesting then to call Mario Wonder such an inspired nomination because like it's a Mario game and it's one of the most ubiquitous genres of all time. But
it's not ubiquitous in this place, and especially not with 2D platformers. And of course, the idea of 2D versus 3D and what is deserving of these kind of nominations and the wins and all of that is a conversation that I think that, from what I can remember, was most sparked with Metroid Dread a couple of years ago in terms of, is it worth this price? Is it worth being considered alongside things like Resident Evil and Psychonauts and Forza and things in that conversation? But Mario Wonder has gotten a pretty good chunk of that in terms of people saying, oh, it's just like the other Mario games. They didn't really do anything new here. We've gotten so many Mario games in the past. And I think that is not only underselling the game and its design and its new aesthetic and stuff, which we'll get into, but I do think that it undersells progression of genre, and also in the case that Wonder exists as, in terms of a reset point for a franchise that has, outside of Mario Maker, been stagnating for multiple decades at this point. Wonder is not just another 2D Mario game. And why, I mean, obviously it's a phenomenal game and one of my favorite games, but why I think it pushes itself into this area is if we had been getting good Mario 2D platformers every 5 or 6 years, and they were up to this level, I don't know if Mario Wonder would be nominated. But the gap and the quality of Wonder, I think those combine to making it absolutely a Game of the Year nominee, a worthy game.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It is my favorite game of the year, and thus my favorite game of this pool. But by far, and I think largely for a lot of the reasons you've explained already. And to me, it really does encapsulate so many different dimensions of what the game of the year is. It's a game of extremely high quality, extremely high polish. To your point, it really does push its genre forward in a lot of ways. It is definitely the most AAA 2D platformer that's ever been made, and I would say that the gap is significant when you think about how inspired it is, how well it's executed on, and everything. But it also is a game that has, as you're saying, great significance for Nintendo and reinventing one of the marquee fictional characters ever.
It made him into an elephant.
And to be received so well, to have all this going for it, you're totally right. And the notion of 2D versus 3D is interesting because I feel like it's a stigma that only exists in the minds of people who don't matter. And I don't. Well, I guess that's inherently disparaging, so I can't say that I don't mean it in a non-disparaging way. But
you also do.
I do because it is largely touted as a sort of fanboy line, right? It's a hey, this fucking 2D platformer is in, but Starfield's not, or whatever. I don't think that it's, which I find some relief in. I don't even really think it's necessary to make the case for why a 2D game ought to be in this category, because I think that the Game Awards, based on some of the things I just read out, have a good precedent for understanding that's the case. With Celeste and with Mario Maker, which I think is a really interesting nomination. Super Mario Maker, just as inspired, I would say, if not even more so in some ways than Wonder. But I think that the reality is, for as amazing as Wonder is, it just doesn't have it.
No, it doesn't. But it also is, I think, held back from even us who love that game feeling like it has the chance to win, because the stigma is still against it. Even if platformers and 2D games have been getting nominated relatively frequently, especially relative to something like the early 2010s, when probably no 2D games or 2D platformers were nominated in that area. the stigma and the trend towards what kind of games win Game of the Year or nominated for Game of the Year is still vastly against a 2D platformer, 2D games in general, being nominated and let alone winning, which has never happened. And so I think that when people are looking at, okay, what is a Game of the Year, not only nominee, but let alone winner, you think about that spectacle, you think about that fidelity, you think about the scope that Wonder has in its own way, but not in the same way that people understand a Game of the Year winner to be.
I'll put it this way, because I still don't... again, if we're talking about the type of person that's voting and putting games forth and then choosing ultimately a winner, I just don't think that it's a stigma against 2D. I think it's a bias in favor of what you're saying in that scope and spectacle.
So by extension, you can make the argument that it's a bias against it. But I think you're right.
Because, I mean, there's nothing short of, like I said, universal, overwhelming acclaim for Mario Wonder. I just think it's when people look at the scale to which Baldur's Gate achieves an extremely high degree of quality, or Zelda does, or whatever, it is a more surface-level, complex achievement. Now, I think that Mario Wonder... and we talked about this in our review, which we'll link out to, and we'll talk about it a lot more depth there than we will here. But the extent to which the game recontextualizes a 2D space and really, really deliberately uses spectacle and art direction and mechanics for these big, harmonious, crazy musical numbers and set piece levels and everything, it is as impressive to me as anything of these other games do. But I just... again, I feel like looking at this through the lens of bias towards the other thing opposed to bias against this, I just don't think it... I don't think it has it like that, which is a phrase that I've picked up for
the fact that it was nominated is the win for this game, and a win for the genre, and hopefully a signal to Nintendo that this kind of game can be considered in this level of consideration if you just put the time in to make the game as good as Wonder is. They frankly just haven't, outside of the Maker games, done anything as revolutionary as Wonder. And so hopefully, I mean, Nintendo usually doesn't care that much about the Game Awards, but hopefully with this being nominated, that signals we can do this again. We can see the next Mario 2D platformer up there in that conversation, which is really exciting. So even though it's got basically no chance of winning, the win is that it was nominated in the first place, because that was under contention. I mean, this is a busy year.
Yeah.
And Wonder making it just a month after it came out, and in a busy year, and as relatively unsafe of a nominee as it was in terms of what people were expecting.
Sure.
It getting nominated is phenomenal. That's why I said it's one of my favorite nominations of the night.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what this tees up, right? Because this will now be yet another really high-profile Mario game nominated and most likely losing. I think that the next 3D Mario game, when that releases, is going to have a very, very, very strong case for Game of the Year, no matter what it's up against.
It's bad.
It would be inconceivable. I mean, it would be inconceivable to me. Well, to be fair, they released Bowser's Furious, so nobody's infallible, but... Tucker, let's get into these other categories. Game direction.
The nominee is being Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, Marvel Spider-Man 2, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder. And I want to get the name of the man who directed this. Shiro Mori, the director of Super Mario Bros. Wonder.
Yeah.
Indirectly nominated. They don't credit the actual exact directors.
Sure.
But Shiro Mori's direction is why this game is nominated for game direction. So, how do you feel?
I feel really good about this, and again, it goes back to let me be as precise in my language as I can be. I feel really happy that this nomination happened, because the success of Mario Wonder is the degree to which it curates these moments, and like I was saying just a couple minutes ago, and then elaborating on again in the review, as I mentioned, to take a Mario platforming level and stuff it with everything that Wonder stuffs it with, and then to replicate that for world after world after world, and make a game that is this full of variety simultaneously feel so contiguous and so sensible as a cohesive package is just stunning. There's a blueprint, of course, insofar as it's a Mario game and there's conventions, right? But this comes as close to following as few conventions as I think you possibly can and still make a level-based 2D Mario game. So I think that there is just so much creative spirit here. And that is a result of a very, very clear intent. And we even know that from the process of iterating on the game, where they were given no timeline and they were generating hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of level design concepts to look at all of that and say, look, we're going to reduce this down to probably 6 to 8 hour game, depending on how quickly you're playing through it, is a very, very cool exercise to undergo and a testament to the direction of the game.
I think that the game direction deserves to be in here because of what you were mentioning earlier of it rejecting conventions, especially when it comes to 2D Mario, which is a series that for most of our lifetime has been known for sticking to conventions and painfully so. But the idea that they finally shook that with the Switch and said, look, take the time you need. And I think the primary thing that really changes the way that I perceive its direction is the idea of taking in ideas from non-traditional people in the dev team. They asked the audio designers, they asked the animators, what sounds fun to you for a mechanic, for a level theme, for an enemy? And they took these ideas from unlikely places and made them feel cohesive, but also made there be way more ideas in this game than any previous 2D Mario game ever has. And that rejection of, okay, it doesn't need to be this way because it has been this way before. We can take ideas from people that aren't traditionally level designers, aren't traditionally programmers, that can give us something totally fresh, is what makes this game as special of a reinvention as it is they took the time to reconsider things. Instead of going with what would have worked, they thought, what else could work? And it is what landed Mario Wonder in being as weird and filled with ideas and crazy shit as it is, and one of the best games of the year.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, of course, just comes down to the fact that and we've laid out this case now in several videos, but Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake 2, both in their different interpretations of direction, are just more recognizable achievements. Either the vision of Sam Lake or the extent to which Baldur's Gate 3 is orchestrated. I mean, a lot of the same successes I'm talking about, in a particular way from Mario Wonder, if you make them general and apply them to Baldur's Gate, it's similar, right? Yeah. Curating these amazing moments and having so much intent, but in a game that is hundreds of hours long and this wide and this deep and everything, right? I just think that
game.
It is I would say that Cubivore is more cubic, but
Minecraft.
Yeah, I think every point you're raising is totally right, and it is also a great sign for Nintendo's future, which is another conversation I have at another time. But what you're talking about this collaborative process and this ideas per square inch, to me, is basically core to why it's my favorite game of the year. But again, the goal of this series is in part to step out of ourselves and step into the analyst's shoes, and I just don't think that it's going to take it.
No, but again, the nomination is the win here. It is basically entirely guaranteed to not win this category. I do think it makes a strong case for how different and unique and forward-thinking direction can be for making a 2D platformer game, a genre that has been beaten like a dead horse basically every generation, and they really have brought it back. So it makes a good case of it could win because it has the quality, but it is, like we talked about with Baldur's Gate and Alan Wake, it doesn't fit into the traditional understanding of game direction, especially not in modern times. And also, it just has stiff competition. It has stiff competition. This is a phenomenally directed game, and probably one of the best directed Mario games that has ever been made. But it's also up against Sam Lake and Larian and Fujibayashi and Brian Intihar. And like, these are some of the best creatives working today. And frankly, this list of games making some of the best games made today, and I would contend of all time. And so it being in here is like, oh, you did what you can. You're up against Titans. And even though you're still for a Titan, there's some Titans that are also slightly bigger and more likely to actually win the award.
Yeah, and I mean, let's talk about the next category, because we got another direction. Now, this is art direction. In art direction, Mario Wonder's up against Lies of P, Tears of the Kingdom, Hi-Fi Rush, and Alan Wake. And I think we differ a little bit on this one because I think that this is a category where Mario Wonder is quite high up in the pecking order. I have it in my head that you feel differently, but that might not be true at all.
No, I think it's easily deserving of being high up there. I mean, I personally prefer the art direction of Tears of the Kingdom, as we were able to talk about in one of our last videos. I think Alan Wake 2, I'm so glad it was nominated here, and Hi-Fi Rush, as we have talked about and will talk about, feels like the clear front runner. But outside of Lies of P, I've played and loved all of these games and loved the art direction of all of these games. But I think that Wonder, even though it's not high on my personal ranking, I think it has a good case to win here in terms of reinventing Mario's graphical style, the animation style, and all the ideas that it brings in. I mean, this is one of the highest fidelity. I think you talked about earlier the fact that this feels like a very AAA 2D platformer, if not the most AAA 2D platformer ever made. And nowhere is that more impaired than the art direction, frankly. It is the attention to detail in the animation and variety in the animation, and the variety in color palette and ideas for, okay, we're doing a grass world and a water world, but how can we make these aesthetics feel fresh again? And some of my favorite moments of art direction of the year just come in interesting characters and enemies and background elements in Mario Wonder, because they're just all done so well.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And I think the other thing to really hammer in on is animation. Just the quality of the moment-to-moment animation. Because everything you're saying is totally true, and then you also look at it through this paradigm of and this, it was a quote that they gave, of how can we make Mario a little bit more loosey-goosey in his movement. And that's another key dimension. When you look at the little blurb about what best art direction is, TGA says this award is for outstanding creative and or technical achievement in artistic design and animation. And it's obvious in the name, right? But I also want to look at this through the lens of the technical achievement too. The game is I would say, easily among the best looking titles on Switch, absolutely. And it moves so fluidly. So I think it really does hit all of these pillars here. Let's give the Mario world a new visual identity, the way that every Mario game used to. Let's do that. Let's have all these creative ideas on that level, but let's also take the animation up so many notches beyond not only past Mario games, but beyond how most 2D games are animated in a 2.5D space, right? There's often a refrain against 2.5D animation that looks cheap, and that's because typically it is cheaper to make a 2.5D animated game than a pixel art game. There's a reason Mighty Number 9 and Bloodstained and so on and so forth are 2.5D. It's a budget saving thing. But what this game does, like Dread before it, and like the upcoming Prince of Persia game, which I think looks great, is I said, let's really get in there and make this animation as fluid as it can be and feel so great, right? New Super Mario Bros. Is extremely stilted. And a lot of even highly lauded animated games look stilted in comparison to Odyssey. The little wiggle coming in and out of a pipe, grabbing the cap, getting the power-ups, taking damage, everything is to such a high bar of quality here. So I think that's the other side of the coin for me. But I ultimately, to make the same point as you were saying we're going to, Hi-Fi Rush, you look at Hi-Fi Rush, you see, boom, that's a pretty game. That's a game that has a defined aesthetic. I think that's going to win. But the more I reflect on the category, I think that Mario Wonder is second behind Hi-Fi Rush.
It's not my personal ranking, but in terms of quality and deserving to win this, I think I would put it in there as well. And I think that the difference then becomes Mario Wonder is a different art style from the games that came before. But it is not radically different. If you are not tuned into this and you put the screenshots side to side, it's like those they could be the same game, just different levels. It's not a clay aesthetic or a pixel aesthetic or something that is so radically different from the new Super Mario Bros. Games that it's impossible to compare the two. Whereas Hi-Fi Rush has such its own distinct aesthetic, it's incomparable to anything else unless you want to draw outside of especially Tango Gameworks wheelhouse, you can find some things that are comparable to Hi-Fi Rush. But Mario Wonder, I think, strikes the perfect balance in my mind in terms of reinventing Mario and giving it this slight clay look to it, and changing up the color palette a little bit, and redesigning the characters with a little bit more rosiness to their cheeks, and a little bit different proportions, and of course, and I think, again, another reason why this game's direction and art direction are so phenomenal in terms of revisiting things. What animations when you pick up a power-up? That's something that's always been the same. Let's just give that a new, fresh spin. Let's get a new sound effect for when you're picking up coins and for the pitter-patter of Mario's feet. Like, they created a new version of the Mario world here, and the art direction is the core part of that. Like, everything looks similar, but fresh enough to where they made everything from scratch. There was no reutilizing the asset that they've had since 2006 here. They did it all new, and it's definitely the art direction that's the core of that.
I agree. I will just say, it's sort of to that point, because I really do love what you're saying about the coin sounds and everything like that. I think that no audio design is a snub here. Sure. And I think it would have made the category... Well, that's actually what I was about to say. I think it would have been an inspired choice, and it would have made the category a little bit more distinct if we dropped just one of the three survival horror games. My preference would probably be actually to drop RE, keep Dead Space, and definitely keep Alan Wake. But I just think that that would also, frankly, help one of the survival horror games to win, because the vote will be split in less ways. And I just think that what you're saying is totally true about this idea of reinventing Mario's identity down to the minutia of these sound designs is great. But I also think that even if you don't care about that notion of reinvention, if you're coming at this having never even heard of Mario, if you've been in a coma for decades and you wake up and you get put in front of this game.
If you've never heard of Mario.
But I think you would just really be taken by how joyful and clever the sound cues for basically everything are. Like the big like snare hit or cymbal crash. I don't know instruments very well. When you ground pound and
definitely
just
does sound like a cymbal. Yeah,
I just totally love all of that, and I think again, I would have put it there. But you know where this game was put, Tucker?
What's the instrument that's like a circle and it's got the little rings on it? You like slap it, it goes ch. Because I think that's what it is.
A bassoon.
No, you fucking nincompoop. No, big circle thing with the little metal ring that you go ch ch ch. Oh come on! You know exactly what I'm talking about. Fuck! It's on the top of my. But it's that, I think.
Okay, we have to go to your grave with that because I have no fucking clue. Tucker, Nintendo has a category.
They own one. Tambourine, fucker.
They have
you heard that?
Yeah, a tambourine. A tambourine? What are you fucking talking about? Tambourine. No, tambourine is your hair with your hand. You don't fucking wear a little. You don't wear.
No, I didn't say you wear them. They're in the thing.
Oh, yeah. I thought you were saying because the way you're motioning is like you put something on your fingers and you hit something else. No, I know a tambourine.
Tambourine? What the fuck?
But Nintendo owns a category at the Game Awards. It's the best family game. And the nominees this year, I'm going to just say are suspicious. Sure. Not because I think that there's foul play or people cutting deals to get nominated. I just don't understand this list.
I think there are
best family game.
I think there are two games here that really feel like they belong. And luckily, Mario Wonder happens to be one of them. The other one is Disney Illusion Island.
And the nominees are Mario Wonder, Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, and Sonic Superstars. I actually want to play Disney Illusion Island.
Apparently, it's like baby's first.
I
found that idea pretty appealing.
It's also a non-violent Metroidvania, which I think is a cool idea. But yeah, Sonic Superstars is not a good game. It's just that's one that doesn't make sense to me.
And also,
Pikmin 4,
you're putting it there because it's got colorful graphics, not because it's good to play with your family.
No, it's an awful multiplayer.
It's categorically worse in multiplayer.
Pikmin 4, I think you're right through the paradigm of if we're thinking about a game you can play with your family, you can't really play unless somebody wants to do the Pebble Pitcher. You're gonna like if you
it's the same shit.
No, if you like have a kid who, and you're controlling your fucking protagonist, like Tenet, make a Tenet reference. If you give your kid the Pebble pitcher, as soon as they turn 18, they're gonna leave and never talk to you again. So yeah, I think you could have built a better category here, but with that said, because the competition is quite suspect, I think that Mario Wonder easily wins this category.
The competition is suspect, not because most of these aren't great games, but because they don't really feel like what is family game. The definition for that is a little bit skeezy. A couple years ago, they put fucking It Takes Two in there, which is a game about divorce and like arguing with your spouse.
Right. Well, it is a game about family.
Maybe one of the only games about like. Then why didn't Ragnarok win last year? What's up with that?
That's a great point. Why didn't Chibi Robo plug into Adventure get nominated last year?
In Resident Evil Village or Resident Evil 7, the Baker family, best family game.
That's true. That
one of the best families in gaming. But I think Mario Wonder here not only wins because outside of Pikmin 4, it's the best game in this category, and I think you would probably put Wonder above, but it is the best family game of this year. It is the most accessible to having the most amount of people. It has the most options to having younger players play with you. It is actually very good in multiplayer, which some of these other games can't really say. And it is something that is really acceptable for younger kids to play and to introduce people to video games. And I think that this, alongside Best Multiplayer, which is the next category we'll talk about, Mario Wonder does stuff with having multiple people and having multiple difficulty options and crossing those between and having online in different ways that make it a great game to play with people of all ages and multiple people.
I'm gonna make one counterpoint. Disney Illusion Island won TIGA. I don't know what TIGA is.
That's that snow biome, taiga.
Right. The UK, I'm reading from Games Industry Biz. The UK trade body TIGA has revealed the winners of its annual awards, with Delilah Studios taking home Game of the Year's award for Disney Illusion Island, which also won Best Social Game. Now, TIGA, I'm not familiar with, frankly, so I don't know if it has of any.
Could be offensive. So
no,
I'm not gonna look it up.
It's probably not, but I guess it could be. I think that Disney Illusion Island has a good chance in that it is maybe even more so than Mario Wonder, purpose built for families.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
But I think ultimately the problem is it's a Switch exclusive, which is only a problem insofar as if you're voting on this category from a place to experience all the games, and you played Disney Illusion Island, you probably also played Mario Wonder, and you probably are going to lean towards Mario Wonder. And I think most people who didn't play any of these games are just going to vote Mario Wonder because it's Mario. But I think that if Disney Illusion Island was more places and more people had experienced the game and more people, it still wouldn't win because it's against Mario, but I think it would be the biggest competition.
Sure, yeah. And I think I would say it still is. But, again, because it feels like it fits this category the best out of all the other nominees. But I do want to say that I agree that it is. It's not stiff competition in terms of I think it could win, because I don't think it can. But in terms of everything you said about it being a great family game of this year, absolutely. Yeah. But I would say that, well, Disney Illusion Island is purpose-built to be, quote-unquote, baby's first Metroidvania. I don't know how accurate that is. I haven't played the game myself. Yeah. I do think that Mario Wonder does maybe the best of any 2D Mario game ever has done, to have this be a game that is accessible to the youngest demographics. Sure. And so Mario Wonder isn't as purpose-built solely for being a family game. Sure. It instead appeals to a wider group. But this will be the one that Mario Wonder takes up.
I mean, this is ultimately just becomes, frankly, the category for games that look like they're for babies in the eyes of the industry. Yeah. And so they just pick whichever one they think is of the highest quality. And I also think that of this list,
should have had Bluey in there.
It's highest quality.
Although I think I actually missed the cutoff. But that is one of the family games of this year.
That is true.
That's a game actually for babies.
They're adults like Bluey.
No, they do. I don't want them around children, but they do.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to make of the whole Bluey situation. Maybe we should Backlog Bluey, we review Bluey episodes.
Bluey Log Banter.
Let us know in the comments if you want us to do Bluey Log Banter, and we will.
Nope.
If there are two, put it this way, if 2 people comment saying we want a video about Bluey, we will make a video about Bluey. And that's a promise.
Oh my God.
2 comments is all you need.
Last category.
What the video about Bluey will be about?
Last category.
That's for us to decide.
Of the night. The 6th category was nominated for Best Multiplayer Game. The nominees being Baldur's Gate 3, Diablo 4, Party Animal, Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Abram, the floor is all yours.
I think that this is. I think it is novel that this was nominated. I think that that's pretty interesting. I just don't think, like, it's probably the last. Would you say it's probably last place in this list?
No, I'd say it's about Party Animal.
In terms of odds of winning. Above, that's a good point. I don't even really. I mean, I know what Party Animals is, but I don't really know.
Imagine Fall Guys. Okay, you did it. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, that sounds really fun, guys. I'm really glad they got nominated for Best Multiplayer. But again, this is Street Fighter's category. Here's my little secret, Tucker, and I said this to you in the review. I don't even really understand what the multiplayer of Super Mario Wonder is. I just don't really get it. I've played it for a couple minutes. I'm like, this is too much like everything I didn't like about Death Stranding.
What are you talking about?
When I'm playing I don't want fucking every Tom, Dick, and Harry's little
I understand
evidence
that.
they've been in my
I
world
understand you not liking the ghost being there. That doesn't mean you don't understand the multiplayer, though.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand what the hearts do. I don't understand why you play multiplayer. I don't understand. I don't really understand any of it.
Do you want me to fucking explain it to you?
Yeah, sure.
You play online. You can see other people playing the exact same game as you, and you can't interact with them. You can't jump on their heads. But if you fall off a cliff or whatever, you turn into a little ghost, which you have done. You did that in your own fucking game.
Yes.
And if you touch their ghosts,
I've done that.
You'd come back to life. You survive. It's like someone popping your bubble in the new Super Mario Bros. Game. So it's just every person on the thing is like a little checkpoint. And you can also like do emotes and stuff to like see people around. And the hearts are just totally nothing ambiguous. You help this many people. And you get a higher score if you help this many people. And if you see someone with a high score, that means they're a very helpful person.
I'm just not motivated by this idea, I have to say. I wish that the races were actually something you could do with random people online.
That would be a better implementation of that idea.
Because to me, the reason why I don't think this has any shot, and frankly, I think would even put below Party Animals, I don't really know what Party Animals is I just don't think that I gotta navigate this. I think that it is so passive.
Putting this man on a fucking American Ninja Warrior course right now.
I think it's so passive that, like, whatever.
Sure. I just feel like it's very milquetoast. Passive. And I actually strongly disagree with the idea of it being milquetoast because I think this is the best implementation of multiplayer in a 2D platformer I've ever seen. And it is also a new idea for what multiplayer can be in this space. Nintendo didn't say you're playing this game normally with your friends online. It is there are 20 people in this level with you. They can revive you. You can share tricks with each other. It works. This game is actually very, I would say, focused on multiplayer in a way that very few 2D platformers ever have been, unless it's explicitly a co-op 2D platform, which this one isn't. But there are some levels in this game that are way easier and way more fun having that on. They're the ones where the medals are hidden around the area, people leaving their standees, the ghosts sort of helping other people. It has this energy of community around Mario that I think recaptures some of the Miiverse energy that something like the Smash stage or Splatoon had.
I do like Miiverse.
This is that put into a 2D space. It's a new understanding of what multiplayer can be. I think it adds a lot of pomp and circumstance and energy and creativity to this game. I strongly disagree that it is milquetoast because there's nothing has ever been made like this before, which means so much testing and ideation went into this. And it fits really strongly with the other identities of this game, which is having a bunch of people around. You have this whole cast of characters, and so they can all show up in your world in terms of the ghosts being in the background of these other people. And so I don't know. I think this is probably this might be my second favorite multiplayer game of the year.
Yeah, I guess it's just I feel like there's very fundamental things on a multiplayer level that Mario Wonder is missing. I think one is a collision detection toggle,
sure, yeah,
turn off or on. Good. If you leaderboards, to me, the lack of leaderboards makes almost no sense. Just in that the badges, there's so much room for replayability, and they basically, since so few levels are like particularly designed around the badges, it feels like they just invite speedrunning and competition and everything. And there's no real framework for it. You can't race people online. I just feel like it's a cool like passive infrastructure, I guess. But I think that there would have been a lot more interesting, intentional ways to take this idea of this game's all about multiplayer and new ideas and implementing them. I think about Rayman Legends is a really good example. Rayman Legends has a mode that I absolutely love, which is one of my favorite multiplayer modes ever. It's called Kung Foot. It's 2D punch your friends soccer. Now, obviously, you couldn't do something exactly like this because there's punching in that game and not in this. But the spirit is, hey, 2D platformer. We want you to play with your friends. What are some fun ways you can play with your friends that are truly different? I think milquetoast, you're right, isn't the wrong word. But to me, the multiplayer here is like, it's like, I don't know what a good metaphor is, but to me, it's just like putting this skeleton on top of the game where it already exists. Like draping this system over top, which is interesting, but I just think that there were like fundamental and pointed things that this game could have done. For multiplayer that it just doesn't.
No, and I think
maybe
that
the one place where I'm let down by it.
I actually don't know if I would consider it necessarily a fair criticism, because I do think that what this game wants to do with multiplayer, it does, and does very well. And I would disagree that a game needs to have active multiplayer to be considered very strong in multiplayer, especially because this is very different from our understanding of multiplayer. The fact that it is more passive and it isn't competitive largely, although you can do those races. It's a game that reinvents what multiplayer can be understood as. You're not just doing the mini games and jumping on your friends like you have in other games of a similar style.
Sure.
And I think for that, I would consider it one of the best multiplayer games of the year in terms of innovation. In terms of it doesn't just do what these other games do. There's not the extra modes, and of course those would be fucking welcome. I'm sure I would have enjoyed them. They would have been great. But I just don't think it's necessary to have those, or that I don't think it's a critique for them not having that, because it's a different interpretation of what multiplayer can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, I guess my critique is that I think the multiplayer is bad, and then that's my solution for what I would have done, I guess. Well, because I think the reason I think it's bad is that I'll use a Death Stranding example,
which I would probably say is one of the best multiplayer games of all time.
Yeah, no, I think that Death Stranding is extremely interesting, because Death Stranding is so intentionally friction-full that it is not only thematically cool but mechanically cool to use people's like contraptions to get around the world. I think I was frankly mostly joking before about the intrusion into Death Stranding with the Strand type stuff. I think that is genuinely one of the most amazing innovations in AAA gaming in a while. But the reason that works so well is because Death Stranding, like I said, is a game that is very hard to navigate, intentionally so. Mario Wonder is basically the antithesis of that. The movement feels so good. Levels are so short.
No boxes on your back.
No box on the back.
Unfortunately.
I just think that the game's challenges aren't strenuous enough to where the ability for all these random people to come and revive you and help you out is as useful or as important in a game like this. When you're playing a stage for 90 seconds, I don't really find myself at a want for a little ghost guy to come revive me. Totally. But when you play Death Stranding, the game feels very intentionally designed in a hostile way to where the community element is a very, very strong and important pillar of it.
I'm just confused on why this makes what Mario Wonder did with multiplayer bad, because I used it constantly. I revived myself probably twice a level, and it does new things with multiplayer that aren't. I agree. Death Stranding, it makes a lot more sense in that game, and frankly, that's a better implementation of it. But because you didn't feel like you needed to revive yourself doesn't mean that it was it's bad multiplayer. You can play the game in 2D multiplayer like you could every other 2D Mario game, which also didn't have, outside of Mario the DS one, the New Super Mario Bros. DS, didn't have those multiplayer games, didn't have races, didn't have these challenge modes. But this just expands on the multiplayer concepts of 2D Mario.
I mean, I guess it's bad in the way that Pikmin 4's multiplayer is bad.
Sure.
In that Pikmin 4's multiplayer, what is in the game is fine. It works. There's a novelty to it. But when you hold it up against what's around it, it becomes it's not as successful. And I mean, if a better word would be disappointing than bad, I'm happy to meet in the middle there. But I just think that, to me, the game is not purpose built for this multiplayer system in the way that Death Stranding is. So it feels like more of an afterthought. And the disappointment for me comes into the fact that I think that there are a lot more compelling implementations of multiplayer than this. And if that's the most precise way to frame the criticism of it, for me, that's fine. I don't feel motivated by the ghost structure at all. I don't think it plays to the strengths of the game. How about, because the reason I emphasize the races and the leaderboards and these things is because that's really what it feels like the game wants to do. Again, and that's what the badges really accomplish. Because by the time you're proficient with badges and everything, you've beaten the game. So what's really the point? Well, the point would be to go back to level 1-1 or whatever with the new badges and race somebody or try to get that speedrunning time. And we're already seeing a very cool speedrunning community for Mario 1 to develop, but with no real apparatus to support them. And there's no way that the development team that spent this much time iterating and ideating on the game wouldn't have realized that was the appeal. So the reason the multiplayer feels bad to me is I think that there's a more complete Mario Wonder multiplayer experience that just isn't here. Yeah. So Street Fighter is winning.
Yeah, that also I think does both things very well. Where to my understanding of multiplayer and expanding of what a social space can be, like I would frankly say that Mario Wonder does. Street Fighter 6 just does that way better. Yeah. Because you have your custom characters, you have the fucking lobby, you're going around.
Yeah, hub's cool.
There's multiple different modes. You can just queue up in a normal menu like you could in other fighting games, or you can fucking walk around to these fucking cabinets, and it does all that. And also, it's a varied, competitive online game in the way we traditionally understand mono e mono online fucking multiplayer action to be. I think that is absolutely the stronger candidate here. But in my personal opinion, I would put this second in terms of innovation. Also, how much the multiplayer meant to me, because I never played multiplayer in any of the other games. Well, I did Party Animals because you can't play that not multiplayer. But Street Fighter 6, totally winning. But even though realistically this is probably fourth in terms of likelihood of winning, I would put it above Party Animals. It's my favorite nominee, but one of the least likely to win.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think we've also, in fairness, been discounting Diablo's chances in this category.
Though, that game is in a place right now where I think the people that were playing it multiplayer are not going to want to vote for it in this category.
That's fair enough. Because, I mean, part of my discounting of it is I don't care. I played Diablo 3, and I think Diablo 3 is kind of cool or whatever, but obviously our bias is much more in favor of Street Fighter because it's the fighting in the hook does, right? So I wanted to see some love, but I think Baldur's
Gate 3.
Mind exploded because I didn't mean to say Baldur's Gate, so Diablo I just 4. Fucked up my whole sentence. I think that Diablo 4 could win, but I'm going to defer to what you're saying about the state of the game. And we'll just go with Street Fighter. And just for fun, Tucker, Mario is also represented in the best adaptation category. Gut check, quick as we wrap. Do you think Mario movie's winning?
No, because The Last of Us came out this year.
Yeah.
And not only is The Last of Us one of the best video game adaptations ever made, I actually have not seen any of it myself, so I can't say personally, but I believe people when they say that. It is also one of the highest acclaimed shows in recent times, which is the only time that's ever happened to a video game adaptation. I mean, you're pushing the bar fucking 7 miles past shit like, yeah, okay, I guess Detective Pikachu was okay and the Sonic movies are kind of fun. It's like, no. This is up there with all the other shit that they like Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I mean, The Last of Us is going to win a lot of Emmys this year, almost beyond a shadow of a doubt. And
Mario movie will not win many Oscars. Many.
Mario movie might win some Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Awards.
Yeah, I guess it could.
We'll never know.
No, because we don't watch that shit. What won the fucking Nickelodeon's Kids' Choice Award last year? I don't know. The Rock. Seems like a guy that would win some fucking awards there.
Probably Kevin Hart and The Rock feel like they probably
do
clean
kids
up
care about Kevin Hart?
Awards.
He's not the foundation.
That's The Rock's
foundation. Fortnite character. Kevin Hart's not in Fortnite.
What are you talking about?
The Rock has a fictional Fortnite character. That's literally just The Rock, and his name is The Foundation. He's like a fucking story character in Fortnite. It's literally just Dwayne Johnson.
I would have just said like it's just it's Dwayne Johnson from fucking Jumanji 2 or something.
Jumanji representation. Because then Jack Black and Kevin Hart would both be in Fortnite, and they're not. And Karen Gillan.
Well, now that we have Peter Griffin in Fortnite, characters of Jack Black's body type are in the game, so we could get Jack Black next.
Characters that are shaped like fucking Kissinger. He could be in Fortnite now that they've added wide characters. I
mean, they could, yeah. I mean, they could do a little just cut the